Dr. Lithana pressed her webbed hands against the viewing window of Kepler Station's main laboratory. Outside in the black of space, she could see them coming. The ships looked like giant metal insects with glowing red eyes. They moved in a strange pattern, circling the station like hungry predators. "How many are there now?" asked Dr. Netherol, her assistant. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. 15 ships, Lithana said. Her voice was calm, but her heart was beating fast. Maybe more coming. The Void Hunters had arrived 3 hours ago. At first, there had been only 3 ships. The Zephyrians thought they could talk to them. The station's commander had sent peaceful messages. He had offered trade and friendship. The Void Hunters had answered with plasma fire. Now the station shook again as another blast hit the outer hull. The lights flickered. Lithana heard screaming from somewhere in the station. She closed her eyes and tried not to think about what was happening to her people. The Zephyrians were not fighters. They were scientists and healers. They had built Kepler Station to study the strange energy fields around the gas giant below. Their people had not fought a war in over 1,000 years. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back. "Doctor, we need to move to the safe area," said Netherol. He was looking at his scanner. "They have broken through Section C. They are taking people." Lithana nodded. She had heard the stories about the Void Hunters. They were cybernetic beings who had replaced most of their bodies with machines, but they still needed organic matter. They took living beings and harvested their biological parts. The thought made her sick. They moved through the station's hallways. The corridors were filled with other Zephyrians running for safety. Children cried as their parents carried them. The elderly moved as fast as they could on their walking aids. Everyone was afraid. The station had been home to 12,000 Zephyrians. It was one of their greatest achievements. The habitat modules were beautiful, with curved walls that looked like coral reefs. Water flowed through special channels in the floors and walls. The air was kept moist and warm, just right for their aquatic bodies. But beauty meant nothing against the Void Hunters. Another explosion rocked the station. This one was closer. Lithana felt the floor shake under her feet. A crack appeared in one of the water channels, and precious water began to leak out. "They are cutting through the hull in Section B now," said Netherol, still watching his scanner. "The automatic doors are sealing, but it will not stop them for long." Lithana thought about the research they were doing here. They were so close to understanding how the gas giant's energy field worked. This knowledge could help many worlds. It could bring clean power to billions of beings across the galaxy. But now, it would all be lost. They reached Emergency Shelter 7. It was a large room in the center of the station, built to protect people from radiation storms. The walls were thick, and the life support systems were independent. Nearly 200 Zephyrians were already inside. They sat in groups, holding each other, trying to stay calm. Commander Velthron was at the control panel. His usually bright blue skin was dark with worry. He was trying to contact the outside galaxy. "Any response from the assembly?" Lithana asked. The commander shook his head. "The Altarians say they are watching the situation. The Centaurans want to send a diplomatic team, but no one is coming to help us." Lithana was not surprised. The Galactic Assembly was good at talking, but slow to act. By the time they decided what to do, there would be no Zephyrians left to save. The station shook again. This time, the lights went out for several seconds. When they came back on, they were dimmer than before. The Void Hunters were damaging the power systems. "How long can we hold out in here?" someone asked. "Maybe 6 hours," said Commander Velthron. "Maybe 8, if we reduce life support." 8 hours. Lithana thought about all the people on the station, the children in the nursery sections, the elderly in the medical areas, the researchers in the outer labs. The Void Hunters would find them all. She moved to the communication panel. Her hands shook as she activated the long-range transmitter. This was their last chance. Maybe someone out there would hear them. Maybe someone would care enough to help. "This is Dr. Lithana of Kepler Station," she said into the microphone. "We are under attack by Void Hunter raiders. They are harvesting our people. Our defenses have failed. We have no military ships. We have no weapons. We are scientists and civilians." She paused, listening to the sounds of the battle outside. Metal screamed as the Void Hunters cut through the station's hull. She could hear their machines working, getting closer. "To anyone who can hear this message," she continued, "we are dying. They are taking us one by one. Our children are crying. Our elderly cannot run. We have nowhere left to go. Please, if there is anyone out there, anyone who can help us, we need you now. We need you before it is too late." She sent the message out on all frequencies. Emergency bands, commercial channels, military networks, everything she could reach. The signal would travel through space at light speed, reaching across the galaxy. But space was vast, and they did not have much time. Another explosion, closer than before. The Void Hunters were almost at their section. Through the walls, she could hear the sound of their cutting tools. Soon they would break through the last barriers. Lithana held Nethrol's hand and looked around at her people. They were brave, even in the face of death. They comforted each other and stayed quiet so the children would not be more afraid. "Did anyone hear us?" whispered Nethrol. "I do not know," Lithana said, "but we had to try." Outside, the Void Hunters continued their work. The station grew darker and colder, and somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a signal traveled through the void, carrying a desperate plea for help to anyone who might be listening, anyone who might care enough to answer. The distress signal from Kepler Station traveled through space like ripples in a pond. It reached communication stations across the galaxy, bouncing from relay to relay, carrying Dr. Lithana's desperate words to every corner of known space. On Altair Prime, the signal arrived at the Defense Corps headquarters during the morning briefing. General Kethvar, a tall being with 4 arms and golden skin, listened to the recording with his staff. His species had been part of the Galactic Assembly for 3,000 years. They were known for being careful and wise. "How many ships do we have in that sector?" the general asked. 2 patrol cruisers, sir," said his aide. "But they are 4 days away at best speed." "And the Assembly Council? What do they say?" "They want to study the situation. Maybe send a diplomatic team first. You know how these things work, sir." General Kethvar nodded. He did know how these things worked. The Assembly was good at many things, but quick action was not one of them. By the time they finished their meetings and filled out their forms, the Zephyrians would be dead. "Send the patrol ships," he said finally, "but tell them to observe only. We cannot risk starting a war with the Void Hunters without proper authorization." The aide saluted and left. General Kethvar stared out his window at the peaceful city below. Sometimes he wondered if being careful was the same as being cowards. On Centaura Beta, the signal reached the peacekeeping force during their weekly planning session. Admiral Zexthai, a being who looked like a large blue butterfly, read the transcript to her officers. "The Zephyrians are peaceful people," she said. "They have helped many worlds with their medical knowledge. We should do something." "But what can we do?" asked Captain Mordell. "The Void Hunters have superior firepower. Our peacekeeping ships are not built for real combat." "We could send negotiators," suggested another officer. "Perhaps the Void Hunters would accept payment instead of taking the Zephyrians." Admiral Zexthai considered this. Her people believed that all problems could be solved with words. It was a beautiful idea, but she had seen what happened when people tried to negotiate with raiders and pirates. "Prepare a diplomatic ship," she said, "but it will take time to gather the right team and translators. Time that the Zephyrians did not have. On a dozen other worlds, the signal was received and discussed. The Valdorians said they were too far away to help. The Corinthians claimed they were neutral in all conflicts. The Nexari offered to pray for the Zephyrians but sent no ships. Everyone had reasons why they could not act quickly. Everyone had procedures to follow, but the signal also reached a different kind of listener. At Outpost Bravo, at the edge of human space, Admiral Sarah Chen was reviewing supply reports when the communication officer burst into her office. "Ma'am, we have an emergency signal. Civilians under attack." Chen was a small woman with gray hair and scars on her hands. She had been fighting wars since she was 18 years old. She did not waste time with unnecessary words. "Show me." She listened to the recording once, then played it again. The fear in Dr. Lithana's voice was clear. The desperation was real. "Where are our nearest ships?" she asked. "The TCN Indomitable is conducting training exercises in the Sigma sector. 2 companies of colonial marines on board. They could reach Kepler Station in 18 hours. Any other options?" "The assembly has patrol ships closer, but they are not moving. Everyone is waiting for orders from their governments." Admiral Chen stood up and walked to the star map on her wall. She found Kepler Station, a tiny dot surrounded by the vast emptiness of space. 18 hours. The Zephyrians might already be dead by then, but they might not be. "Get me Captain Rodriguez on the Indomitable," she said. The communication officer looked worried. "Ma'am, we have no authorization for military action in that sector. This could cause diplomatic problems." Chen turned to face him. Her eyes were cold as winter ice. "Son, there are people dying out there. They asked for help. Where I come from, that is all the authorization I need." The officer sent the message. A few minutes later, Captain Marcus Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen. He was a big man with a beard and kind eyes. Behind him, Chen could see the organized chaos of a military ship preparing for action. "Admiral, I assume this is about the Zephyrian signal?" "It is. How fast can you get there?" 16 hours if we push the engines. My Marines are ready for deployment." "Any questions about the mission?" Rodriguez smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had spent his life protecting innocent people from those who would harm them. "Just one, ma'am. Do we have permission to use maximum force against the Void Hunters?" "Captain, those fish people called for help. They are scientists and children and old folks who never hurt anyone. The Void Hunters are killing them and taking them apart like they are spare parts. You use whatever force you think is necessary." "Understood. Indomitable out." Chen turned back to her communication officer. He was staring at her with wide eyes. "Ma'am, the assembly is going to be angry about this. The other species will say we are too aggressive. They already call us the mad apes of Terra." Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Let them call us what they want. When their children are in danger, when their worlds are burning, when their people are crying for help, they know who to call." She moved to her desk and began typing orders. The human fleet was small compared to some species, but it was fast and it was ready. More importantly, it was willing to act. "Get me the 3rd Fleet. Tell them to be ready for emergency deployment and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we are answering a distress call." "What if Earth says no?" Chen stopped typing and looked at him again. "Son, have you ever read human history?" "Some of it, ma'am." "Then you know that humans have been running toward trouble for thousands of years. When someone calls for help, when someone is in danger, we go. We do not ask permission first. We do not wait for committees to vote. We go because that is who we are." She finished typing and sent the orders. Across human space, ships began to move. Not because their governments told them to, but because someone needed help. And humans always answered when help was needed. The Indomitable pushed its engines beyond safe limits, racing through the dark toward Kepler Station. In the training areas, Marines checked their weapons and armor. They did not know the Zephyrians personally. They had never seen their world. But it did not matter. Someone had asked for help. That was enough. The TCN Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like a hunter stalking prey. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching the tactical displays light up with information. What he saw made his jaw tight with anger. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Martinez at the sensor station. "Look at them." The Void Hunter fleet hung around Kepler Station like vultures around a dying animal. 17 ships now, all black metal and glowing red lights. They had attached boarding tubes to the station in dozens of places. Dark figures moved through the tubes like ants carrying food back to their nest. "Status report," Rodriguez ordered. "Sir, I count 17 enemy vessels. Mix of cruisers and smaller raiders. They have superior numbers and firepower." Martinez paused, checking his readings. "Sir, they are definitely harvesting operations. I am detecting transport activity between the ships and the station." Rodriguez felt sick. The Void Hunters were not just killing the Zephyrians. They were taking them apart piece by piece, keeping what they could use for their cybernetic bodies. "Any response from our signals to the station?" "Negative, sir. But I am detecting life signs in several protected areas. The Zephyrians are still alive in the emergency shelters." "How long do they have?" Martinez checked his scanner again. "Based on the rate of Hunter activity, maybe 6 hours before they break into the last safe areas." 6 hours. Rodriguez had brought 2 companies of colonial Marines, 96 of the finest soldiers humanity had ever produced. But 17 enemy ships was a lot, even for Marines. "Get me Sergeant Major Vasquez," he said. A few minutes later, Sergeant Major Elena Vasquez appeared on the communications screen. Behind her, Rodriguez could see Marines preparing for combat. They moved with calm efficiency, checking weapons and armor with the practiced ease of professional soldiers. Vasquez was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but Rodriguez had seen her fight. She was tougher than steel and twice as sharp. Her dark eyes missed nothing, and her tactical mind was legendary in the Corps. "Captain," she said, "I have been studying the tactical situation." "What do you think, Sergeant Major?" "It is a mess, sir. Too many enemy ships, too little time. But it is not impossible." Rodriguez almost smiled. Vasquez always found a way. "Tell me." "The Hunters are focused on their harvesting operation. They have grown careless about perimeter security. They think no one is coming to help the fish people." "They thought wrong." "Yes, sir. I count 12 viable breach points on the station. The enemy has concentrated their forces in the civilian areas, but they have left the outer sections mostly unguarded. If we can get Marines aboard quietly, we can hit them from multiple directions." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The station was huge, with dozens of habitat modules connected by corridors and transport tubes. It would be like fighting in a giant maze, but Marines were trained for close-quarters combat. What about those ships? That is the tricky part, sir. If we attack the fleet directly, they will just kill all the hostages before we can stop them. We need to get our people aboard the station first, secure the civilians, then deal with the ships. "How?" Vasquez smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Stealth drop pods, sir. We come in dark and quiet using the gas giant to mask our approach. The Hunters will not see us until we are already aboard." Rodriguez considered this. Drop pods were dangerous in the best circumstances. Trying to land on a station surrounded by enemy ships while avoiding detection was almost suicide. "Casualties?" "Some, sir. Maybe many. But if we do nothing, those civilians all die anyway." That was the truth. Rodriguez had seen the reports about Void Hunter raids. They never left survivors. "How many Marines do you want?" "All of them, sir. Both companies. We hit hard and fast, multiple breach points simultaneously. Confuse the enemy, keep them from organizing a proper response. And if the ships try to run with hostages, then you blow them out of space, sir. Better a quick death than what the Hunters have planned." Rodriguez nodded. Vasquez was right, as usual. This was not going to be a clean operation. People would die. But sometimes the choice was not between good and bad, but between bad and worse. "You have authorization, Sergeant Major. Prep your Marines." "Yes, sir." "Sir, what is it?" "Those Zephyrians have been waiting for help for almost 20 hours. When we get down there, they are going to be scared and desperate. My people will need to move fast to keep them calm." "Your Marines speak Zephyrian?" "Some basic words, enough to say safe and Marines and we are here to help. The translation software will handle the rest." Rodriguez felt a surge of pride. His Marines had spent the trip studying Zephyrian language and culture, preparing to communicate with people they had never met, from a species most of them had only heard about in briefings. "One more thing, Sergeant Major. Rules of engagement?" Vasquez's expression went cold. "Sir, the hunters are harvesting civilians, children, elderly, scientists, who never hurt anyone. Rules of engagement are simple. Anyone wearing hunter colors who does not surrender immediately gets a bullet. Acknowledged. Good hunting, Sergeant Major." The communication ended. Rodriguez turned back to the tactical display, watching the enemy ships continue their terrible work. Soon, very soon, they would learn what happened when someone threatened innocent people while humans were around. "Mr. Martinez, take us deeper into the system. Use the gas giant's magnetic field to hide our approach, and prep the drop pods." "Sir, dropping Marines onto that station while it is surrounded by enemy ships is extremely dangerous." Rodriguez looked at his young officer. Martinez was a good man, but he was still learning what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of cautious, careful species. "Son, those fish people called for help. They have been waiting almost a full day while everyone else held meetings and filed reports. My Marines did not sign up to be safe. They signed up to protect people who cannot protect themselves." He moved to the captain's chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention all hands. This is the captain. In about 4 hours, we are going to attempt a rescue operation that any reasonable military would call impossible. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and operating with no backup. The smart thing to do would be to wait for reinforcements." He paused, looking around the bridge at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting. "But there are innocent people down there who are counting on us. They do not care about our problems or our fears. They just want to live. They want to see their families again. They want their children to grow up safe." He stood up, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders. "We are going to give them that chance. We are going to go down there, and we are going to bring them home, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Not because we have to, but because we can." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Martinez spoke up. "Sir, drop pods are ready. Marines are suited up and standing by." "Take us in, Lieutenant. Let us go save some fish." The Indomitable moved deeper into the system, hidden by the swirling energies of the gas giant below. In the drop pod bays, 96 Marines made their final preparations. They checked their weapons, said their prayers, and prepared to do what humans had always done when innocent people were in danger. They prepared to fight. Gunnery Sergeant Jake Cooper felt the drop pod shaking around him as it fell through space toward Kepler Station. Inside his powered armor, warning lights flashed red. The targeting computer showed 17 seconds until impact. "Alpha Team, sound off," he said into his radio. "Alpha 2, ready. Alpha 3, ready. Alpha 4, ready." 48 drop pods fell through the darkness like metal raindrops. Each pod carried one Marine in full combat armor. They had launched from the Indomitable while hidden behind the gas giant, their approach masked by radiation and distance. The Void Hunters detected them too late. 10 seconds, Cooper said. "Remember, we are here to save civilians, not count kills. Get to the safe zones fast." 5 seconds. Cooper gripped his rifle and said a quick prayer. Impact. The drop pod smashed through the station's outer hull like a hammer through paper. Cooper's armor absorbed the shock, but he still felt his teeth rattle. Emergency systems activated, sealing the breach around his pod. He kicked open the pod door and stepped into Kepler Station. The first thing he noticed was how beautiful it was. Even damaged by the fighting, the Zephyrian architecture was amazing. Water flowed through channels in the walls. The corridors curved like coral reefs. Everything was designed to feel like being underwater, even though they were in space. The second thing he noticed was the body. A Zephyrian scientist lay in the hallway, blue skin pale in death. Strange mechanical parts had been attached to his torso. Wires ran from the devices into open wounds. The Void Hunters had been experimenting on him while he was still alive. Cooper's jaw tightened. He checked his motion scanner and saw his team forming up around him. Time to go to work. "Alpha Team, move to Emergency Shelter 7. Watch for booby traps and stay in contact." They moved through the station like ghosts. The Marines had trained for this kind of fighting their whole careers. Urban combat, boarding actions, hostage rescue. The corridors were tight, but their armor was designed for close spaces. Cooper heard weapons fire from another part of the station. Bravo Team was engaging the enemy. Good. The more places the Marines attacked at once, the more confused the hunters would be. "Movement ahead," whispered Corporal Davis. 3 contacts. Armed." Cooper saw them through his armor's camera system. Void Hunters. They looked like spiders made of metal and flesh. Their original bodies had been replaced with cybernetic parts, but they had kept some organic components. Cooper could see human-like eyes in their mechanical faces. "Take them," he ordered. The fight lasted 15 seconds. The hunters were fast and their weapons were powerful, but they were not expecting heavily armed humans to appear behind them. Cooper's team moved with practiced coordination. Davis flanked left, while Thompson took the right. Cooper charged straight up the middle, his rifle spitting death. The hunters fell without firing a shot. "Keep moving," Cooper said. "The civilians are close." Throughout the station, similar fights were happening. Marines appeared from drop pods like vengeful spirits. They used the station's own structure against the enemy. Sergeant Willis's team flooded a corridor with emergency foam, trapping a group of hunters in hardened concrete. Lieutenant Park's squad used the artificial gravity generators to crush their enemies against the ceiling. The hunters were good fighters, but they were not prepared for this kind of warfare. They were used to raiding helpless civilians, not fighting trained soldiers who fought back. "This is Bravo 6, came a voice over the radio. "We have reached Emergency Shelter 4, 30 civilians safe. They are scared but alive. Charlie 3 here. Shelter 2 is secure, 60 civilians rescued." Cooper smiled inside his helmet. The plan was working. His team reached Emergency Shelter 7. The door was heavily armored, designed to protect against radiation storms, but it would not stop the Void Hunters for long. Cooper could see where they had started cutting through with plasma torches. "Civilians inside," he said into his radio. "This is Gunnery Sergeant Cooper, Terran Colonial Marines. We are here to help you. Please move away from the door." There was silence for a moment. Then a voice answered in accented Galactic Standard. "Are you real? Are you truly here?" "Ma'am, we are real, and we are here to take you home. Stand back from the door." Cooper's team set shaped charges around the door frame. The explosion was controlled, designed to open the door without hurting anyone inside. When the smoke cleared, Cooper stepped through. The shelter was packed with Zephyrians. They huddled together in fear, their large eyes wide with terror. Many were injured. Some were children clinging to their parents. All of them were staring at Cooper like he was a miracle made real. "Ladies and gentlemen," Cooper said, "this is Gunnery Sergeant Cooper, Terran Colonial Marines. We received your distress signal. We are here to get you out." An older Zephyrian female approached him. Cooper could see that she was a scientist from her clothing. Her hands shook as she reached toward him. "You came," she whispered. "You actually came." "Yes, ma'am." "Are you Dr. Lithana?" "I am." "Doctor, I need you to help me organize your people. We are going to move you to a safer location while my team clears the rest of the station." "How many of you are there?" 96 Marines, ma'am. More than enough." Dr. Lithana stared at him. 96? Against 17 ships? Cooper checked his weapon and smiled. "Ma'am, where I come from, those are pretty good odds for the Marines." The evacuation began immediately. Marines moved through the station in coordinated teams, clearing each section with methodical precision. They found Zephyrians hiding in storage rooms, laboratories, and maintenance areas. Each group was escorted to secure positions near the station's center. The Void Hunters tried to fight back, but they were completely outmatched. They had expected to face frightened scientists and children. Instead, they found themselves fighting professional soldiers who had been preparing for this kind of battle their entire lives. "Delta Team to all units," came Lieutenant Morrison's voice over the radio. "Hunter ship is trying to detach from the station with hostages. I need support at docking port 7. "On my way," Cooper replied. He turned to Dr. Lithana. "Doctor, stay here with Corporal Davis. Do not leave this area until we come back for you." Cooper and his team ran through the station toward the docking port. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of other Marines fighting. Explosions echoed through the corridors as humans and hunters clashed. They reached the docking port just as the hunter ship was preparing to leave. Through the transparent aluminum window, Cooper could see Zephyrians being dragged aboard the enemy vessel. "Not on my watch," he said. Cooper's team set up covering positions while Lieutenant Morrison's Delta team moved to intercept. The Marines had trained for boarding actions against hostile ships. They moved onto the hunter vessel like they owned it. The fight inside the ship was brutal and close. The hunters had the advantage of knowing their own ship layout, but the Marines had superior training and equipment. Room by room, corridor by corridor, they pushed the hunters back. "Ship secure," Morrison reported 10 minutes later. 43 civilians rescued. All hunters neutralized. "Good work, Delta. Return to the station." Cooper looked out at the remaining hunter ships. Several were already pulling back, their commanders realizing that this was not going according to plan. Others were trying to cut their boarding tubes and escape with whatever prisoners they had already taken. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the radio from the Indomitable. "All Marine teams, be advised. Enemy ships are attempting to flee with hostages. I am engaging with ship weapons. Take cover." Through the station's windows, Cooper could see the space battle beginning. The Indomitable opened fire on the fleeing hunter ships with precise shots, disabling their engines without destroying them completely. They wanted to save any civilians who might be aboard. "Sergeant Major Vasquez to all teams," came the voice over the radio. "Status report. Alpha Team, emergency shelter 7 secure, civilians safe. Bravo Team, multiple shelters cleared, no casualties. Charlie Team, station command secured. We have control of life support. Delta Team, hostile ship captured. Prisoners rescued." Cooper smiled. In less than 2 hours, the Marines had taken control of most of the station. The Void Hunters, who had thought they were hunting helpless prey, had instead found themselves facing the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, humans protecting innocent people. "All teams, this is Sergeant Major Vasquez. Good work, Marines. Now let us finish this job and get these people home." Cooper looked at Dr. Lithana, who was watching the battle through the viewing port. Tears ran down her blue face. But they were tears of relief, not fear. "Doctor," Cooper said gently, "it is going to be okay now. The Marines have landed." Dr. Lithana sat in the medical bay of the TCN Indomitable, watching human doctors work alongside their medical computers to help her people. It had been 24 hours since the Marines had broken into Emergency Shelter 7, but she still could not fully believe what had happened. The humans had won. 17 Void Hunter ships had surrounded Kepler Station. The entire galaxy had written off the Zephyrians as dead, but 96 human Marines had landed on the station and changed everything. "How are you feeling, Doctor?" asked the young human medic working on her water-breathing apparatus. His name was Peters, and he was barely old enough to be considered an adult by Zephyrian standards. "Better," she said. "Thank you for your help." Peters smiled. "Just doing my job, ma'am. We have been studying Zephyrian physiology during the trip here. Had to make sure we could take care of you properly." That was what amazed her most. These humans had prepared for everything. They had studied her people's language, their biology, their culture. They had come ready not just to fight, but to help. "Dr. Lithana?" Admiral Chen appeared in the doorway. The small human woman looked tired, but her eyes were bright with satisfaction. "How are your people doing?" "All alive," Lithana said. "Injured, frightened, but alive. How is this possible?" Chen sat down beside her. "What do you mean?" "Your Marines fought 17 ships, professional raiders with superior technology. You should have lost." Chen smiled. "Doctor, let me tell you something about humans. We have been fighting for our entire history, not because we want to, but because someone always seems to want to hurt innocent people. We have gotten very good at it." "But the odds?" "The odds did not matter. Those were your people in there. They called for help. That is all that mattered to my Marines." Through the medical bay window, Lithana could see the wreckage of the Void Hunter fleet. 14 ships had been destroyed or captured. 3 had escaped, but they were badly damaged and would not be raiding anyone for a long time. "What will happen to the captured hunters?" she asked. "They will be turned over to the Galactic Assembly for trial. Those that can be, anyway. Some of them chose to fight to the death rather than surrender." Lithana thought about that. The hunters had been so confident, so sure of their victory. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with such skill and determination. "Admiral, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Your people have only been part of the galactic community for 30 years. The other species have been here for thousands of years. They have bigger fleets, more advanced technology. Why are you the ones who came?" Chen was quiet for a moment. She looked out at the stars, thinking. "Doctor, have you ever studied human history?" "A little. We have a saying on Earth. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We learned that lesson the hard way, over and over again." She turned back to Lithana. "The other species are not bad people. They mean well. But they are careful. They think about consequences and politics and proper procedures. By the time they finish thinking, the victims are dead. And humans? We think differently. When someone is in trouble, you help them first. You worry about the paperwork later." Captain Rodriguez appeared in the doorway. "Admiral, we are ready to escort the survivors back to their home world. The Zephyrian government has sent a medical ship to meet us." "Thank you, Captain. How are your Marines?" "Tired, proud, and ready for the next mission. We lost 2 good people, but they saved thousands." Lithana felt her hearts break a little. "2 humans died for us?" Rodriguez nodded solemnly. "Corporal Martinez and Private Johnson. They died protecting Zephyrian children who were hiding in the nursery section." "I am so sorry." "Do not be sorry, Doctor. They knew what they signed up for. They died doing what they believed in." Later, as the human ships prepared to leave, Dr. Lithana found herself alone with Admiral Chen in the observation deck. Below them, Kepler Station was being repaired. Zephyrian engineers worked alongside human technicians to fix the damage. "Admiral, what happens now?" "What do you mean?" "The other species will not like what happened here. They will say humans are too aggressive. Too quick to use violence. Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let them say what they want. When their children are in danger, when their worlds are burning, they will call us. They always do. Will you always answer? Doctor, 3,000 years ago, my ancestors made a promise. They said that human beings would never again stand by and watch innocent people suffer. We would always stand up to bullies. We would always protect those who could not protect themselves. She looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy full of different species and worlds. We have kept that promise for 3,000 years. We will keep it for 3,000 more. Dr. Lithana thought about this. The other species call you the mad apes of Terra. I know. They say you are too violent, too unpredictable. I know that too. But when we called for help, when we were dying, you came. Not the wise Altarians with their careful plans, not the peaceful Centaurans with their diplomatic solutions. You came. Chen nodded. And we always will. That evening, Dr. Lithana sent a message to the Galactic Assembly. It was not just a report of what had happened at Kepler Station. It was something much more important. Members of the Assembly, her message began. For 23 hours, my people suffered under attack by Void Hunter raiders. We called for help. We begged for someone, anyone, to save us. The response from our galactic community was predictable. Committees formed to study the situation. Diplomatic teams prepared to negotiate. Military advisors recommended caution. All while my people died. But one species answered our call immediately. The humans received our signal and sent their warriors without hesitation. They asked no questions about politics or procedure. They did not wait for authorization or debate the consequences. They simply came. 96 human Marines faced 17 enemy warships to save people they had never met. They fought with skill and courage that amazed everyone who witnessed it. 2 of them died protecting our children. I proposed to this assembly that we stop treating humans as dangerous primitives and start recognizing them for what they truly are, the guardians this galaxy needs. While we debate and hesitate, they act. While we count costs and measure risks, they save lives. The humans have a saying, when seconds count, help is only minutes away. For my people, help came in the form of Terran Marines emerging from smoke and fire to fight for strangers. Perhaps it is time we learned from their example. Perhaps it is time we stopped being so civilized that we forget what civilization is supposed to protect. The message spread through the galactic communication networks. It reached every world, every government, every military command. Some species dismissed it. Others were offended by the suggestion that humans were somehow better than them. But in the quiet places, in the emergency command centers and the military academies, officers read Dr. Lithana's words and nodded. They remembered other times when quick action might have saved lives. They thought about all the times they had been too careful, too slow, too concerned with procedure. On Earth, Admiral Chen received a copy of the message. She smiled as she read it, then filed it away and went back to work. There would be other distress calls, other people in need of help. The Marines would be ready. Because that was what humans did. When someone called for help, they answered. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. Not because they had to, but because they could. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, other predators heard the story of Kepler Station. They learned what happened when humans found them hurting innocent people. Most of them decided to find easier prey. Because when civilians shouted for aid, Terran Marines emerged from the smoke, and they always would.